Hello, welcome to today's video. We are part 2 for unit number 10, and this is going to start out at page number 118. So we're unit 10, and the name of our book is Play Piano Now, book 1, for the busy adult. Okay, so last we talked about some flats in the right hand, left hand, learning about C chord. Let's go ahead now talk about the flat sign, this page here, 118, talks about the fermata. This is something you should have already learned from your flashcards. It just means to hold the note longer than its rhythmic value. Let's go ahead and take a look here at page number 118, and we have a fermata over measure number 6 there for the right hand. And so we're going to talk about what happens when we approach that. Let's go ahead and take a look. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So as you can see, as I played that G with the fermata above it, I held the note longer. Now, as to how long you should hold it, that really depends. Usually, I like to add half the value of the note longer. And then once you're done holding it that long, then you're going to lift both hands and add a space of silence and then begin again. So as you can see here, when we play shoe fly, the right hand and the left hand are going to shape to the chord. Now when you play the left hand chord, G7, notice that it's going to be 5, 2, 1 over these 3 notes here. And finger number 4 and 3 are not doing anything. That's perfectly fine because that's the way it's supposed to be. But for the right hand, C major, just these 3 notes here. There are some notes in between, but now look, G7, you actually will be placing your hand in the G7 shape with those 3 notes belonging to it, but you're also playing D and E along with it as well. So in all, you do have 5 notes, so you need to be prepared, even though you're in G7 position, to be able to play with all 5 fingers. So when you see that G7 chord as the chord symbol above, immediately go from C position to G7 position, placing 2 and 3 over D and E like that. All right, so let's go ahead and try that again. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then switch. Notice how I was switching even while holding G there in the right hand for this measure number 2, so that you can prepare for the next measure. A pianist always prepares. And now both hands are shaped, G7. Shaping back to C major. 1, 2, 3, lift. Back to G7's shape. And C, C. Now here at the bottom, there's an optional left-hand chord accompaniment style, which is to play C, G, G and E, G and E. And it's just a little variation in the left hand, instead of just playing whole notes. Now let's go ahead and listen to what that sounds like. You lift there after holding. And I just added with the half note there at the end. Okay, so this is a little bit of a different type of accompaniment. It may be tricky because, first of all, it's not written in the staff. You've been so used to playing what you read, you're now having to use your mind to imagine what this would look like underneath every single one of these measures. So in order to practice for that, you may have to just play the left hand alone as you're looking at the measures, imagining what the notes are. One thing you can do also is say E, D, C, E, E, G, D, D, E, D, C, C. Or you can just kind of ghost to the notes as well. E, E, C, C, E, E, G. Now there are some moments when you come together and you may have to isolate the areas. Okay, so especially when one hand is moving while the other is holding. Okay, so I would really highly recommend that you practice one hand at a time. Let's go now to page 119. So for page 119, we are now being introduced to the eighth note. Now the eighth note is a subdivision of the quarter note. We take the quarter note, we slice it in half, and the two halves become eighth notes. Notice here in your book, page 119, that two eighth notes, they are played in the time of one quarter note, and because of that, we count it as one and. One way we can see what the one and looks like is by when we tap our feet, or when we go like this, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And that's one way to count eighth notes. When my toes hit the floor, that's 1. When my toes come up, that's the and, or the upbeat, also known as the upbeat. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And the way we count that, or clap that, is like this. Let me go ahead and show you the stepping here too. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's go ahead and listen to the metronome at 60. Here's our tempo. These are quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then, when you subdivide them, they become double time much faster. Okay? So now what we're going to do is I'm going to turn the metronome back on. It's still going to be at 60, and I'm still going to be lifting and dropping my foot for the beat. But now I'm going to clap 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 out. Okay, listen carefully. 1, 2, 3, here we go, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you see how this is clapping for both down and up, down and up. Now, it's going to be kind of tough maybe if you're not used to using a metronome to clap the eighth note. So in that case, if this is hard for you to do it just with the quarter note, what you can do is subdivide it to eighth notes or put it on 120. This is what it sounds like that. So these are eighth notes here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and here we go. 1 and 2 and 3. See how I'm matching? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. And there was my example of two eighth notes fitting inside of a quarter note. Okay, so that's just a little bit of a demonstration about the eighth note and how it's counted, how it's clapped. Let's go ahead now and take a look at Skip to My Lou on page 119. And when we play, we do have some eighth notes. So let's go ahead and listen to what this sounds like first. And you may notice that Skip to My Lou has the exact same melody as Shoe Fly, shoe. Except this time, on beat 2 of a few measures, there will be eighth notes instead of the quarter note. So let's go ahead and listen to that now. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. So one way to prepare yourself for playing these eighth notes is to clap and count, just like we did from the very beginning of using our book. Let's start by clapping just the right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you may also want to write this down. 1, 2, and 3, 4 for the half note. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Quarter notes again. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the same rhythm as before. 1, 2, and 3, 4. So it's going to be long, short, short, long. Another way to think about the clap or the rhythm beat. Now let's go ahead and try that again. And this time we're going to do a little bit of counting when it comes to playing those eighth notes. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. And there you have it. Lift because of the fermata. Now, if you have already been practicing shoe fly shoe with the new accompaniment of, being able to apply that to skip to my loo shouldn't be too difficult, except for when you have the moment where the right hand is playing eighth notes and the left hand is playing quarter notes. If that becomes tricky, what you want to do is play both hands together. One hand, left hand, is going to be playing quarter note. The right hand will be playing eighth notes. So on beat 2, for each one of these measures, I want you to just practice playing like that. 1, 2, and 2, and 2, and. It's like you're playing the quarter note and you're playing the subdivision of that quarter note in the right hand. So 2 for the 1, 2 and 2 and. Or for this measure, 2 and 2 and then this one just move 2 and, or excuse me, 2 and. Okay, so whatever your chord is, hold it in the left hand, practice playing that eighth note, and do it over and over again until you're able to get it perfectly well. And then you're going to slowly expand the size of your measure. For example, if you're starting here and you got that down, then you're going to go back to the previous beat, 1, and then add 2. And you'll do that a few times. Or for this one. And then this one, of course. Excuse me. What I mean to say is when we're doing the accompaniment. We haven't even been doing that. Alright, here we go. So notice how the left hand does change. This one here, same thing. Same thing here. This one may be the most difficult because the right hand moves. So when you got that down for beats 1 and 2 for all of these measures, then you're going to expand more until you have the rest of the measure. Doing that as many times as you need, slowly expanding from beats 2 to 3 to 4. Okay? This one here will be the hardest. Always practice one beat at a time slowly until you've got them both together. Let's go ahead and listen to the whole thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there you have it. Very good. So that's page 119. Okay, now going to page 120, rhythm exercise away from the keyboard. This is simply going to be us practicing clapping and counting rhythms, which include eighth notes. We'll do number 1 together, and I'll have you do the rest on your own. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3. Dotted half note. 1, 2, 3. Okay, being able to clap and count. If you do need to write in some of the subdivisions or the counts, perfectly fine. but don't keep it there forever. Eventually erase it. Let's go ahead and practice this sight reading here, 120. Okay, here looks like we're in middle C position. 1, 2, 3. Let's try that again. Fermata and lift. For a moment there, I thought it was going to be happy birthday to you, but no. Last one for this part 2, we're going to be doing standing in the need of prayer. Notice how we are being introduced to the da capo al fine, which is when you see that at the end, you're going to go back to the beginning and then end at the fine. Let's go ahead and listen to what this one sounds like. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so as you can see, it's going to be a little bit longer, and we do have some crescendos and decrescendos there, so that's the one thing I like to notice about too when playing this music. And of course, the right hand, as you can see, is all melody. Not only is it melody, but it does have a lot of eighth notes. It even includes some sharps here on the third and fourth systems to be played legato with the slur. Okay, so the one thing you may also notice here is there are no chord symbols. Now, if you'd like to go ahead and just write in the chord symbols so that you have a little bit more experience reading chord symbols, go ahead and do so. Write it over the treble clef area every time the chord changes in the left hand. That may be helpful too. Okay, so I would encourage you to practice one hand at a time, making sure that the right hand does sound louder than the left. And when we put both hands together, make sure that you do it one measure at a time. One thing you want to keep in mind, though, is sometimes your rhythms are kind of contrary to each other. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is together. 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now counting like that may be helpful after you learn the note names in both hands. Let's go ahead and come down here to the pickup to measure number 9. This is going to be a tough one here because of all these eighth notes. Don't let that throw you off because your left hand is just on beats 1, 2, 3, 4, and just like you did at the beginning, it does change a little bit, but on the next measure there, number 10, it goes back to what we did at the beginning. Okay, so I would encourage you definitely one hand at a time here. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3. Mixed articulation too. Now one thing we can keep in mind is when you're playing these eighth notes at measure number 9 and also 13 is keep the quarter note down for the duration of both eighth notes in the right hand. Don't lift it too early, okay? Because remember, 2 eighth notes equal 1 quarter note, and if we lift the quarter note early, it's not going to be correct. Mixed articulations there. Crescendo, and then a repetition, da capo al fine, Going back to the end there. Okay, very good. So let's go ahead and practice this one hand at a time, and I look forward to hearing you at your next lesson.